The CMHC is a federal crown corporation which often issues reports on the state of the country's housing market. It's also often criticized for underestimating the impact that foreign ownership is having on the cities of Toronto and especially Vancouver. But this week, it came out with a report that's a little more interesting than usual. It looked at the impact of the rising number of non-permanent residences on housing in Canada. Non-permanent residents are mostly made up of foreign students and temporary workers. The thing is that their numbers have doubled in the past decade and they've quadrupled in the last 2 decades. So there are now more than 800,000 non-permanent residents in Canada at any one time, and they're nearly all in Canada's 5 major cities: Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, and Edmonton. So this report looks at their impact on the housing markets in these cities. It particularly looks in a kind of a new and novel way on how many mortgages they are taking out. And it found that there's a high degree of foreign students and temporary workers who are buying high-end condos and houses, especially in Vancouver and in Toronto. In some ways, the most important part of the report is it looks at how non-permanent residents are impacting the rental markets in places like Toronto and Vancouver. I looked closely at the situation in Metro Vancouver, and there are 140,000 non-permanent residents in Metro Vancouver. The thing is, there are only 350,000 rental units in total in Metro Vancouver. So obviously, the arrival of 140,000 more young people is going to put a lot of pressure and competition on who can find rental accommodation. And as everyone knows, there's a rental crisis in Metro Vancouver. The vacancy rate is less than 1%. So kudos to the Central Mortgage and Housing Corporation for looking at the impact of non-permanent residents on the housing market. They're a group that's not had much attention in the past, but obviously they deserve to be closely examined.